Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat? Saints Day 16 out in Irvine, California. Our buddy Ross Jackson, Locked on Saints, and LouisianaSports.net, has been there for the entirety of it. He's been very generous with his time to join us to give us these camp reports. How are you, man?
Hey, buddy, doing great. I don't know how I'm going to live up to the Hump Day sounder there. Oh, my goodness.
Is that the first time you ever heard Hump Day on the show?
It's the first time that I've heard it on hold. I've heard it on the show before, but this is the first time I've ever had to follow it.
It is. I just looked down. It is 99 degrees right now. Air temperature 99. What in the world? Maybe it's just that I noticed that when I'm talking to you, when it's like sunny and 72 in Irvine or whatever you're dealing with right now.
If it makes you feel any better, it's 86 today.
No, that doesn't make me feel better
right,
at all. Not even a little bit.
I tried. Okay.
You know what did make me feel better? Seeing Marshon Lattimore and Pete Werner getting some work today. Should I make anything of these guys getting back and stretching the legs a bit?
Yeah, I think it's a great thing. I think they're a great sign. This is what the New Orleans Saints needed, right? Like, they need to be able to get their players back out on the field and everything like that. We also saw Rashid Shahed, Bub Means, both of the wide receivers come out of their non-contact jerseys. They were full participants all throughout camp today, including team drills, everything like that. Demario Davis doing some individual drills as well as walkthroughs and everything. This is good news. This is what it is that you want to see. It's not all perfect, of course. Alvin Kamara not back out there yet today, but I don't think there's any reason to rush him out there. It's not like he's got anything to prove. And so I think so far so good in terms of the positive trajectory of the Saints' health conversation here in training camp.
He's on Twitter at Ross Jackson Nola, by the way, if you want to check him out. Make sure you follow him on Twitter. What about right tackle? I know Dennis Allen was asked about it, and the general feeling I got from what he said, Ross, was, well, we'll keep putting Penning out there because no one else has stolen reps from him. Has anybody stood out positively out there that could push Penning at right tackle?
I don't think enough, no. I think the only player that you could maybe point to say that already has the track record in terms of being able to do it would be Landon Young, because he stepped in place of Ryan Ramczyk in place of injury in the past before. And so maybe he and his NFL experience at the position and experience with the team. But remember, they're running a different scheme at that time. So maybe this scheme doesn't necessarily complement in terms of what it is that Landon Young does best. I'm not sure. And so I couldn't say right now that I have seen a starter quality right tackle for the New Orleans Saints. I just haven't seen one, and that includes Penning. And so I think that it's still a major thing that they have to be ready for. They have to have some other kind of bullet in the chamber here, because at some point they're going to potentially have to pivot away very quickly from Trevor Penning. If he's not ready to go at right tackle, they're going to have to find somebody that's going to be able to plug in and be serviceable there.
What about Oli Udoh?
He's done okay. I think you see him over on the right side, and a lot of the issues that he's had have been holding penalties, false starts, things like that. It's been a little bit of a kind of like, I think, Foster Moreau called them MEs, mental errors and things like that. So you've seen a little bit of that. I think we've watched Oli Udoh struggle in pass protection when he's playing on the interior. That was kind of the story around him in Minnesota as well, because he was a career tackle. And then they moved him to the inside, and it wasn't really working for him there. So maybe with more sustained reps at right tackle, you'll see things there. But as of right now, I haven't seen anything from him that says that he is ready to take that job away from Trevor Penning.
Ross, at this point in camp, are trades at positions like that a realistic possibility, or is it really just like wait and see after cut down who's available?
Yeah, I think it really is kind of wait and see after cutdowns and or during cutdowns. So there's two realities here. You can wait to see if somebody does get cut and then see if you can get them off of waivers. The other thing is sometimes teams have to play a numbers game. And so you work those phones and you're kind of saying, hey, as you're looking at that numbers game, is there a right tackle or is there an offensive lineman that you're looking to move off of that, you want to trade instead of cut, get something back from, things like that. Like you can start to kind of try to do that kind of work. At this point, it's really challenging because teams aren't going to just let a starting caliber right tackle up off their roster. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially with 2 preseason games, 2 weeks of practices, plus a week off and another week of practices before week 1. you never know what's going to happen. A team like the Chicago Bears right now has actually a pretty good depth all of a sudden at their tackle spots. And so could you potentially call them up at roster cuts? Yeah. But if you call them up right now, they're probably not going to be willing to move off anybody at this time.
He's Ross Jackson on Twitter, X at Ross Jackson NOLA. Make sure you subscribe to the Locked On Saints podcast. Of course, he'll lead our Saints coverage at LouisianaSports.net. Saints added a familiar tight end in Mason Fairchild, who they signed, cut, or waived. Now they've brought him back. Just depth at tight end. Does he have a chance to make the team?
That was a really curious move for me. They moved off of a defensive lineman in Kyler Baugh, and then who's an undrafted free agent. And I thought maybe, okay, well, when you do that, adding on to your offensive line or something like that seems to make sense. I don't understand the addition at tight end, if I'm being completely honest. I know Juwan Johnson's still working and rehabbing, but you've got Foster Moreau, you've got Dallin Holker, you've got Kevin Rader, you've got Michael Jacobson, and all these guys have looked decent in their roles, right? They're not all asked to do the same thing. What Rader is asked to do versus what Holker is asked to do are very different things, but they're both doing fine, and in Holker's role well in their roles. So the only thing I can think of is that teams will sometimes track snaps. How many snaps has each player played at a particular position? And maybe they feel that the tight ends are getting a little overworked, so they brought in another tight end to rotate so that they can lessen some of the work so that they don't risk pushing guys into injury risk when it comes to the number of snaps that they've taken. That could be the logic behind it, but I don't know that Mason Fairchild's showing up and competing for a roster spot.
I got two more things for you. One, standouts today. Anybody positively stand out?
Yeah, Rashid Shahed, big time. Cat Terrell at one point turned and looked at me and went, boy, I sure are glad to have him back. And that's absolutely true. He adds, and this might be my greatest stroke of genius in terms of analysis, Matt, so brace yourself.
All right, I'm ready. Hold on, I got my pen.
He adds so much speed to this team. It's exactly what you bring him in for, right? I mean, but his yards after catch ability, there was a 3rd and 15 where they ran the screen pass. You love a screen pass on 3rd and long. They dumped it off to him. He picked up probably 13, 14 yards, which, look, in a fourth quarter when you're down 2, that might get you in a field goal range. In a fourth quarter when you're down 6, that gets you to a 4th and 2 as opposed to a 4th and 15. You'll take that. But his ability to weave and kind of run 30 yards to get those 13, there's no one else on this roster that does that at the position. Similarly, Jake Haener caught him at one point in stride on a quick slant route that he took from the left side of the field and then ran all the way over to the opposite side of the field. Sorry, it was right to left, all the way over to the left side of the field, and then ends up walking in with what would have been a touchdown. So he was a big standout for me today in his return. I
saw this video, Drew Brees at practice meeting Rashid Shahed. Apparently Shahed had a picture of he and Drew Brees when he was like in the 5th grade.
Yeah.
What a cool story that is. But I don't know if you want to talk about that a little bit, that'd be great, or any other observations. I did notice a lot of Saints alums maybe at practice the past couple of days. What's going on there?
Yeah, we've seen a lot of that. We saw guys like Roman Harper were around, Scott Shanley was around, Drew Brees, as you mentioned, and this is pretty typical of the Saints. Like they had, Avery Johnson, the former, NBA head coach and player and everything over here the other day too. This is pretty typical of New Orleans Saints practices and training camp. They bring in a lot of these guys to come in and kind of either, say, hey, here's how we did it when I was here, or give them some motivation and all these other things. It's a part of the kind of coaching technique of exposing these players to different lines of thought and how to achieve success. And so they bring a lot of these guys around to help. And then you get a guy like Roman Harper, who was out there working with the defensive backs. I mean, he looks like a dude that's still ready to get back out on the field, So, yeah.
We saw Roman over at Media Days, man. Now, here's the problem, Ross. He's dropped a few LBs. He is not NFL safety size anymore. Usually when playing careers end, like you see the offensive linemen sometimes go from 300 to 220. You don't typically see safeties go from 220 to 180, but that's like Roman's done. He looks like a svelte Ross Jackson, maybe a little bit like that.
There you go. Yeah, just with more hair.
Hey, bro, I'm right there with you in the same ballpark. He's on Twitter at Ross Jackson NOLA, Locked On Saints podcast, and leading our coverage for LouisianaSports.net. We appreciate it, man. Only a couple more days. Looking forward to having you back in the booth.
Yes, sir. Can't wait. Appreciate you. Take care. Stay safe. Talk to you soon.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.